My design was perfect.
Look what you did to Mr. Bigglesworth!
But Dr. Evil, we were unable to anticipate feline complications due to the reanimation process.
Silence! Let this be a reminder to you all that this organization will not tolerate failure.
Welcome back to Banging the Can, the Houston sports show that does not apologize for championship rings and tings, presented by Bolen Media, with new episodes dropping every Monday and Friday. I am Ross Bolen, and we have a surprising amount to talk about today. Between the Houston Astros cleaning house and the Houston Rockets starting preseason play, let's start with the Astros, who are getting rid of everyone in the front office not named Dana Brown or Joe Espada. That's obviously an exaggeration, but as of this morning, the Astros have either fired or will not be bringing back the head athletic trainer, both hitting coaches, the catching coach, and the assistant general manager who oversaw medical player development. All gone. All gone. Now, I said somewhere around August that as a result of the plague of injuries that derailed this season, with the Astros sending more players to the injured list than any other club in Major League history, they should probably clean house in terms of training and medical staff. I'm not a doctor, and I work out in my garage, so I'm no training expert, but regardless of whether or not the medical staff or training staff were to blame for the season getting ravaged by injuries, I argued that you have to clean house just to get rid of the bad juju, the sour vibes, or the god-awful luck. And like many Astros fans who had become disgusted with the team's collective approach at the plate this season, and arguably last season as well, I had a feeling the hitting coaches might be on the hot seat. So this isn't exactly shocking stuff, right? I think a lot of the insiders in Houston sports media who either have a relationship with the front office or have spent years watching the way that Jim Crane operates as owner of the Houston Astros, had kind of tipped us off. Like, heads were going to roll. It was unclear which heads would roll, but the overall sentiment seemed to be the Astros would be making some changes to the coaching staff and the front office this offseason. So to reiterate, General Manager Dana Brown and Manager Joe Espada will both return next season, but many of their underlings will not. Assistant General Manager Andrew Ball, who oversaw medical player development, head athletic trainer Jeremiah Randall, hitting coaches Alex Cintron and Troy Snitker, and catching coach Michael Collins are all gone, either fired or the Astros are letting their contracts expire and not bringing them back. It does not look like the medical staff itself has been affected by these sweeping changes, which is interesting. But head athletic trainer Jeremiah Randall's contract expired and it will not be renewed. He is gone. He had led the Astros athletic training staff since 2015. So a lot of these guys are guys that have been around for the majority of the golden era of Astros baseball. All right. Cintron and Snitker shared hitting coach duties for the Astros since 2018. So now they're gone. And just to focus on the hitting coaches for a second, look, it's really difficult to parse out how much of this is just like scapegoating versus these being areas where legitimate concerns have developed and Dana Brown and Joe Espada looked into those concerns and recognized that they were the result of coaching. Like, everybody knows our offense sucked this season for the most part, but it was really tough to judge because you're missing Yordan Alvarez for 100 games, and when he's out, you lose your number one offensive producer, Isaac Paredes, for months and months and months. And while he's out, then Jeremy Pena, your third best offensive producer, goes down for a while. Like, there were so many injuries to pivotal players on the Astros lineup that it made it tough to tell. Like, is this an issue with approach, strategy, coaching? Or is it just that the Astros have been so wrecked by injuries that no amount of good strategy and coaching could possibly overcome that? Or is it that the coaches are doing what they're supposed to be doing and the players simply aren't listening? These are things that as fans, we are obviously less able to determine. We don't have an inside look at the machinations of the fucking franchise on a day-to-day basis or a game-to-game basis, right? We see what we see on the field, and we have to draw our conclusions as such. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I know the Astros' offensive issues in 2025 were the result of the hitting coaches getting complacent or failing to communicate effective strategies to the men who go and hold the bats standing at home plate. Because I don't fucking know. I don't know, man. But I do know that when shit is going really poorly, you got to change something. And it's pretty clear that Jim Crane, in conjunction with Dana Brown and Joe Espada, determined, all right, this one is not really on the general manager. It's not really on Joe Espada, the manager. And it's not the lineup that's a problem. The injuries, no doubt, played a role, no doubt. But at the end of the day, they decided the move here is to start whacking some of these roles that with long-standing employees that they deemed to be ineffective over the course of the 2025 season. So sometimes you just got to shake shit up, man. I mean, there's no better evidence of this than professional sports, where on a very regular basis, highly respected head coaches are fired, and they get jobs at other teams. But if it's a matter of fit or vibe or personality, like, you never really know. There's all kinds of reasons that coaches get fired. There's all kinds of reasons that that assistant coaches get fired or that get, don't get their contracts renewed. So, like, on the whole, I get all of these changes, right? It does feel a little scapegoaty that, like, Dana Brown didn't get fired, but the assistant to the general manager got fired. Like, that's interesting. Andrew Ball being the assistant GM who oversaw medical player development. Like, to focus back on the hitting coaches before I take it wider, there were clear-cut issues with the offense, and the approach at the plate on a team-wide level was shit. It was not good. We over the last several weeks, we've already run through the stats. We don't have to relive them and take ourselves back to a dark place unnecessarily. But suffice it to say that the amount of pitches per at bat the Astros were seeing, their ability to drive in runs with runners in scoring position, like, it was lackluster all season long. When you're in conversations with the Colorado Rockies as a comp for your offensive production, something has gone terribly fucking wrong. And something had to change. And as I said repeatedly this season, when you look at this lineup on paper, it should be terrifying for other teams. That is an insane amount of talent, offensive and defensive talent, that should no doubt, if healthy, compete for a World Series. That's my personal opinion, but I think it's the opinion of a lot of people who watch a lot of baseball. Like, they are stacked, but everything went wrong this year. So what do? You don't change the lineup. You don't panic sell a bunch of fucking future Hall of Famers or leaders in the clubhouse, or, like, between Yordan Alvarez and Jeremy Pena and Isaac Paredes and Carlos Correa and Jose Altuve. Like, they have so many dudes who have proven they are incredibly good at hitting a baseball. There should not be this many issues. Now, you may notice that 3 of the guys I just named are guys that were hurt for a lot of the season. So, again, it sucks, but at some point, somebody's got to take the blame. And at some point, you got to change things up. And maybe they felt like the hitting coaches got complacent. They've been here 7 years. They've seen a lot of success. That fucking happens. I'm not saying that is what happened, but maybe that's what Joe Espada and Dana Brown or Jim Crane himself determined after taking a look at things and evaluating things. So the hitting coaches being gone does not surprise me. Somebody having to take the blame for the Astros' return to play procedure for injured players seems like that's assistant GM Andrew Ball, who's going to fall on that grenade. And that needed to be done too. Somebody needed to take the blame. And it's difficult to imagine that just all of a sudden the learned doctors who are in charge of caring for these players just lost their magic. Because it's not really a thing. You're either a good doctor or you're a fucking bad doctor, right? It isn't a sport. It's science. There's no, it's very scientific. It's not like professional baseball. So it's hard to imagine that it's the doctor's fault. But it seems like whoever's in charge of overseeing players returning to the field after injury should absolutely get fired. And I'm not even confident that is Andrew Ball. I just feel like it's Andrew Ball who's the buck is being passed to. So something had to happen there. Jake Myers being the most flagrant example of a player whose injury and his status was clearly mishandled over the course of the season, costing him months of play, arguably, when Jake was having a standout year, both offensively and defensively. Inexcusable. Something had to change. Something had to change. So I get why the hitting coaches are gone. I get why Andrew Ball is gone. You gotta blame somebody. Head athletic trainer Jeremiah Randall, makes sense that he's gone. I think you fold that in. Him and Andrew Ball combined are like the you guys messed up the injuries stuff. And again, whether or not these people are actually to blame is sort of beside the point. The point is something needed to change. You cannot just I'm superstitious. Most baseball players are superstitious. I feel like there's more superstition in baseball than there is in any other professional sport. Maybe with golf being the exception. But actually, no, fuck that. Golf would maybe be number 2. Baseball is the clear-cut number 1, unless I'm forgetting something. But I'm superstitious about this shit, and I feel like you can't just roll into next season with the exact same staff. It's hard to put this on Dana Brown. It's hard to put it on Joe Espada. It doesn't seem fair to let either of those guys go, and they've both got one more year on their contract, so why not let them stay and see what they can pull together if they bring in some new bodies? And I get it. I get all that. Makes sense to me. A couple other things of note. The pitching coaches seem to be safe. That should shock no one. These guys have been the best in the business for years and years and years and years and years and years and years, even after losing the head pitching coach, whose name is currently slipping my mind, but legend, a few seasons ago. Our pitching coaches clearly know what they're doing. If all the pitchers weren't injured, we would have had one of the best staffs in baseball. I believe that. They were digging up minor league guys no one's ever heard of and making them effective at the big league level for very long stretches. The pitching coaches arguably are the only thing that held this fucking season together long enough for us to even have a shot at the postseason in the final week of the year, or the final week of the regular season. So pitching coaches being safe should shock no one. Glad that nothing rash was done there. The only other thing I would point to is that third base coach Tony Perez-Chica is also safe. And I'm not really sure how. I was really confident this guy would get canned. He made at least somewhere between 8 and 20 just completely asinine decisions, waving guys around or holding them up at third base over the course of the year. Just generally didn't seem like he had a very good feel for third base coaching duties, as far as making a determination on whether or not he should send a runner to home. And considering how much we sucked with runners in scoring position, that mattered a lot. And so I'm a little surprised Tony Perez-Chica is still around. But, again, I don't know why some of these decisions are being made because I'm not in the clubhouse. This is where you got to turn to guys like Chandler Rome, who are very much embedded in the front office and clubhouse and culture of the Astros and know what's what. But even if you go read Chandler's columns on The Athletic about these changes to the Astros coaching staff, training staff, front office, the Astros famously at this point, infamously at this point, they don't share a lot of detail. They're not interested in making sure the fans understand why they made the decisions they made. And just to explain that to you, if you're confused about why, they feel like, it seems, the more information they give out, the more information they're giving out to other teams, other franchises, the more they are lessening their competitive advantage. And I'm not sure how much of that is like unnecessary paranoia versus sound strategy, but it does seem to be the way they look at things. So even if you go with like Chandler, who is the source that I trust the most when it comes to stuff with the Astros, him and Brian McTaggart, shout out to both of them. I love following both those guys. I think they do incredible work, and they're both good writers and very entertaining in their own ways. You're not going to get from either of them like real valid explanations about the things that are happening, at least not so far. And yeah, so Dana Brown and Joe Espada are both under contract through 2026, so just one more season for those two to prove their worth. We will see who they go to fill the gaps in the training staff and in the coaching staff that just opened up as a result of these firings or decisions not to renew. And I'm very curious if these changes translate to productivity, especially on the offensive side of the ball in 2026. And I'm glad that we have an owner who is not willing to look at this season and just go, you know what? It was the injuries. No need to make any other changes. Let's just push forward. That actually wants to evaluate every department and make sure that his head guys, Dana Brown and Joe Espada, stay on top of all their different areas of expertise and the things that they have to, and areas they have to manage that they are responsible for, and make sure that the team is in the best possible position to win. And as many people have said before me, these changes are only appropriate if you have a sound, well thought out, and documented strategy on what you're going to do next. It can't just be, we got to blame some people, him, and him. It needs to be, there needs to be sound reasoning behind that, which again, we don't get to be privy to as fans, apparently. So, I don't give a shit about being privy to the inside information as long as the Astros, are privy to it. As long as the front office and the coaches that remain and the players are privy to it. They need to have, that shit needs to be, this can't just be a scapegoat situation. I really hope it's not, and I don't think it is, because that's so stupid to operate that way. You need to know, okay, we're getting rid of the head of the training staff, and here's why, and here's what we want to change about this area of our team's operations. We're getting rid of the hitting coaches, and here's the kind of hitting coach we want to replace them with. Like, they need to know those things, and we'll see how it shakes out. But I'm hoping that there is a sound strategy in place to fill the holes that have just been created. Now, shifting gears to talk Rockets, Houston Rockets, who started the preseason on Monday with a win against the Atlanta Hawks, but significantly more importantly, played their first preseason game featuring newcomer Kevin Durant on Wednesday against the Utah Jazz. Another win, I might add. They're 2-0 so far through the preseason. And look, yes, it's the preseason. We have to start this discussion with that disclaimer. It's the preseason. Nobody cares. But holy shit, this team looks dangerous. I watched some of Monday's game. I got bored and Kade wasn't playing, and I was like, fuck it. It's the preseason. I watched almost all of Wednesday's game against the Utah Jazz, and seeing Kevin Durant in a Rockets jersey made me feel like I slipped into an alternate timeline, but I was wildly impressed by what this team showed against the Jazz. I mean, dude, I think there's so much negativity when we saw Fred VanVleet go down with a season-ending injury, blowing out his knee in the Bahamas. It sucks. You know, we were the second favored team in the NBA, behind only the Oklahoma City Thunder, who are defending champions in terms of odds to win the NBA Finals this upcoming season. And it was a devastating blow to lose your starting point guard, a veteran leader of your team, who very much so is like almost comparable to a Jose Altuve, where it's like the production isn't going to be off the charts anymore. It's not necessarily an all-star, but he's a guy who is the beating heart of what you've got going in the locker room or in the dugout in the case of Jose. That's what Fred reminds me of. It's similar. Veteran leadership, championship pedigree, right? Knows how to win at the highest level. Both are guys who are wildly undervalued and underestimated by scouts. Both littler dudes than you would expect to see in their respective sports having the amount of success that they've had. There's a lot of parallels between the two of them is my point. But to shift focus back to Fred, it felt so shitty to see him go down that I think there was all this negativity built up and we almost forgot how excited we should be for this season. And let me tell you, for me personally, Wednesday's game against the Jazz, preseason, but it got me so amped. At one point, we had a lineup out there on the court of Kevin Durant, Amen Thompson, Alperen Sengun, Jabari Smith Jr., and Tari Eason all on the floor at once, and it was incredible. There are not going to be that many teams who can play with the Rockets this season when they're healthy, and that's without Fred VanVleet. And that surprises me. It's going to surprise a lot of people, I think. And again, preseason, too early to tell, but also, is it? Because I feel like I know what the fuck I'm talking about. And watching that game, I was like, oh my God, we're going to destroy people. We are going to destroy people. Some of these lineups that Ime Udoka has the ability to put together now that Kevin Durant's on the team. By the way, Kevin Durant scored the most casual 20 points I've ever seen on Wednesday. I think he started 0 for 3 or 0 for 4, then made the rest of his shots the rest of the game, finished like 7 for 10 from the field with 20 points. Just incredibly efficient, makes everything look so easy. He's still very much the Slim Reaper. Granted, he's an aging Slim Reaper, but it's not like he's lost a step speed-wise, really. The only thing I would notice about Kevin Durant and as far as the aging goes is like he's maybe not as explosive as he used to be from like a driving to the hoop or dunking standpoint, but even then, very little regression. Very little. Almost not noticeable unless you've been watching him, for 19 years. I think it's his 19th season in the league. So the dude is still one of the best scorers in the NBA. He's still one of the most respected scorers in the history of basketball. And he's still performing at an incredibly high level. So that when you couple him with guys like Amen Thompson and Alperen Sengun, like it's a dangerous team. They're gonna fuck people up. They're gonna really fuck people up. I'm serious. Amen Thompson looks incredibly solid. His handles, one thing that a lot of us were looking to see him improve over the course of the offseason. I can't really tell if they're much different yet, but the athleticism, the agility, the ability to what's the word I'm looking for? Maneuver in the air when he's already left the ground is crazy, man. Like he's so freaking good. He's so good defensively. And another thing that this Wednesday game gave me hope for is a lot of people pointed to Dillon Brooks and Fred VanVleet as like defensive tone setters for the Rockets over the past few seasons. And Dillon Brooks is gone and Fred VanVleet is out for the season. The defense is still there. It's very much still there. And Kade kind of fits into it seamlessly. He's got so much length. Like everybody on this team has absurd wingspans. It's nuts. Amen, obviously included. And just a lot to be excited for if you're a Rockets fan this season, outside of the fact that Kevin Durant has joined the team and is going to pour it in when he needs to. But part of what I noticed in this game is like he might not need to that much. If we can get a fucking efficient 20, 25 points a game from Kevin Durant, that might be all we need. Now, he's going to have the nights where he pops off, scores 35, 40, 45, 50. I hope, no doubt, those are going to be sprinkled in because those are very fun to watch. But for the most part, he doesn't need to carry the team like that. He just needs to blend in and become a seamless part of the offense and then also work his ass off on defense the way the rest of this team does. Alperen Sengun has developed what looks to be through 2 preseason games, preseason doesn't count preseason, but through 2 preseason games, looks like he's developed a 3-point shot, which puts him just another step closer to the Jokic comparisons becoming very, very relevant. Those have felt a little silly over the past couple seasons. Baby Jokic, baby Joker, yeah, whatever, dude. That fuck it. Yeah, they're both European, and they both, play a certain style of white guy basketball. That's, but. The biggest difference to me was always like Jokic can score from anywhere on the court with these insane, it's like when you play horse against your grandpa when you're a little kid and you're like, how the fuck is he even making these shots? Nobody's shot a basketball like that in 50 years. That's what Jokic looks like when he hurls up one of these 3-pointers. Sengun, wasn't really trying to mix three-pointers into his bag, seemingly the last couple seasons. But this year, it seems like that's going to be a focus, at least a little bit more. If they leave him wide open on the arc, you got to shoot that shit, son. And he's got the chops to pull it off. So he still looks incredible. He looks stronger. Amen looks stronger. I think Amen added like 20 pounds this offseason, 15, 20 pounds this offseason as well, which is only going to help him on both sides of the ball. Jabari Smith Jr. looks like he's locked in, like he's improved. And then an incredibly important aspect to this team is obviously going to be point guard, which is going to be split duties between several guys, it sounds like. I don't think Ime Udoka wants to put Reed Sheppard in a position where he's saying, it's your job now, Reed. You're the starting point guard, and make it happen. But Reed did start on Wednesday as the starting point guard. Preseason, it doesn't matter. But, dude, he looked good to me. He looked really good to me. And stylistically, it sucks that Fred VanVleet went down, but Reed Sheppard might be John Stockton. And yes, that's an insane thing to say. And I'm walking out on a very, very skinny, ready-to-snap limb in saying it. But watching him play, stylistically and size-wise, and the way he moves, that's the comp that popped into my mind. And I remember as a small boy watching John Stockton and Karl Malone on the Jazz and fucking hating John Stockton because he was so wily and he was just such a pain in the ass and he could see the whole floor and he was a great passer and a great scorer. Reed Sheppard is not John Stockton, to be clear, yet. But stylistically, the comp is there. And if he put on a little bit of bulk too. He looks a little bigger. He looks a little stronger. He looks a little more capable of handling what NBA defenses are going to throw at him. I think he's got fairly decent court vision. It doesn't even need to be that good, though. Look at who he's surrounded by. Kevin Durant, Alperen Sengun, Amen Thompson, Jabari Smith Jr. These are guys that can score a basketball. And they're fucking huge. So his vision doesn't have to be that spectacular. But if he can take care of the basketball, not turn it over, set up the offense, and then find his spot in the corner for a three or wherever outside the arc, and if his shot is as good as it's been sold to us the last few seasons, or since he was drafted, he could be very, very dangerous. Very, very dangerous. And it sucks that Fred went down, but it puts the team in a position where they're forced to adapt, and I think it might actually help the Rockets, because they're not lacking for talent on the offensive side or the defensive side of the ball. Oh, man, there's a huge roach in my studio. Massive. I got to get up and kill it, right? No, I can finish the show. I don't want to lose it, though. But I got to kill it. I got to kill it. Don't leave. Don't leave. Don't stop listening or watching. Stay right where you are. I'm just going to kill this real quick. It's going to be fine. All right, it's dead. Sorry. Reed Sheppard. Oh, it's all over the bottom of my shoe. Now I'm just rubbing it on the carpet. It doesn't matter. Reed Sheppard might be the truth. I believe in Reed Sheppard the way Gotham believed in Harvey Dent. Now, whether or not that'll turn into a two-faced situation or be a win for all of us is yet to be determined. But I believe in Reed Sheppard. I think this Fred VanVleet injury could end up being a blessing in disguise because, again, it doesn't have to be on Reed to bring the ball down the court every single time. They've got Amen Thompson who can do some of that. They've got Kevin Durant who can handle some of that. All he's got to do is not turn it over and get the offense rolling and then dish it off to one of the dudes who we know is one of the best, most athletic scorers in the NBA. So he might not be John Stockton yet, but I see the blueprint there, and I'm very, very excited to see how he develops. I also am getting an inkling that, again, when they said, like, we're not going to name anybody a starting point guard, we're going to do a point guard by committee thing, I think that was maybe more strategy than it was truth. Because if you just put it on this young kid who's 22, 23, or whatever he is, like, hey, you're basketball now, that's a lot of pressure. But if you make it a thing by committee and just slowly acclimate him to being the starting point guard, that might be a much more effective strategy. So, look, all that to say, the Rockets are fucking crazy good. And what they have done, Rafael Stone and Ime Udoka and the whole front office building this team is something we should not take for granted. And even if, let's just say hypothetically, this isn't the year that we go and get a ship, which I still believe is very, very much in play, even without Fred VanVleet. Let's just say, though, hypothetically, that we just accept this isn't the season. what they have built is going to last many, many years. You know, there was too much talk about like, oh, the Rockets, like, you know, I got rid of Jalen Green and Dylan Brooks, and they've like sacrificed some of the young core. Bro, go look at the team. It's Kevin Durant and a bunch of 23-year-olds running around. And all the 23-year-olds are legit NBA players now. They developed over the past few seasons, and they're all winners. And they're all locked in. And just from a vibe standpoint, not only do you not miss Jalen Green, they looked better through 2 preseason games than, to me, in terms of cohesive strategic basketball, than they ever did with Jalen Green. He might have been a bit of a black hole that I didn't really give enough credit to or discredit to. So they're going to kick some ass. I'm telling you right now. I have loved Rockets basketball since I was 4 or 5 years old. More than any other Houston sports team, the Rockets were my first love. Okay? And there have been ups and downs, but basically since the Harden era ended, we've been waiting to see a winning franchise emerge from the ashes. We saw the beginning of that 2 seasons ago. We saw it really progress last year, and I think this year is going to be the one that pulls in all the casuals. The casuals will be back this season, I think. They should be. If you're a casual, it's time to be back. That's what I'm telling you. The Rockets have 2 more preseason games on October 14th and 16th. Then the regular season begins October 21st with the Rockets playing the very first game of the NBA season against the defending champion Oklahoma City Thunder on ring night in Oklahoma City. Obviously, Kevin Durant being on our team and all that, there's going to just be so much buzz around it. I'm not sure that storyline is actually relevant anymore. He hasn't been there forever, but it's going to be exciting. I'm very stoked for it. You should be too. That will do it for today's show. Remember, we have new episodes dropping every Monday and Friday on the podcast platforms and on youtube.com/@bangingthecan. If you like this show and you want to see it continue, please do the following things. If you're on YouTube, subscribe, like, turn on notifications so you find out every time we get a new video out, and leave us a comment on today's show. Those things help us grow. If you're on Apple Podcasts, give us a 5-star rating. Write a couple sentences in the form of a review about why you like our show. If you're listening or watching on Spotify, give us a 5-star rating. Tell your friends and family about the most unapologetic Houston sports show in existence. Your uncles, your aunts, your cousins, your sisters, your brothers, your moms, your dads, your people who love Houston sports and are obsessed with the Rockets, the Astros, the Texans. Tell them about what we're doing here. We cover all 3 of those teams all season long and all off season long to the best of our ability. Follow us on social media. That also helps. @BangingTheCan on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and Threads. @BangingTheCan, where you'll see clips of our show, where you'll see me live tweet games on Twitter @BangingTheCan. Good fun stuff on the social platforms. I'm Ross Bolen. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram @WRBolen. I'll be back Monday. Until next time, H-Town, stay down.